Real quick, I want to do a fair use. Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai. We want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rahaha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut. To the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists in the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking their lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom. To the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom. To you sisters, you Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence. This your brother Aram Yahawada with the lesson.
A newly declassified memo drafted by U.S. intelligence agencies seems to contradict one of President Trump's reasons for one of his controversial immigration policies, deporting migrants to a prison in El Salvador. Now, the memo disputes the Trump administration's claims that the Venezuelan government is working with a notorious gang. For more, let's bring in NBC News intelligence reporter Dan DeLuce. Dan, good to have you with us. So you have a new article out after getting a copy of this memo. So tell us, what does this document have to say about the relationship between this gang, Tren de Aragua, and Venezuela's government?
That's right, Joe. This memo is a reflection really of a near unanimous consensus among intelligence agencies that this gang, as dangerous as it is not being directed, it looks like, or somehow operating with coordination from the Maduro regime in Venezuela. And that, of course, was the justification cited by the president when he invoked this 1798 law, the Alien Enemies Act, to justify deporting Venezuelans to a prison in El Salvador with a much less due process than normally would be accorded. So it's really contradicting the administration's portrayal of this gang's relationship to the Venezuelan regime, and I think it's going to create some political and potential legal problems for the administration.
So, Dan, this document doesn't exactly settle what the relationship is exactly, right? I mean, so how is the intelligence community divided on this issue, and why is it so important when it does come to the Trump administration's deportation policy?
That's right. So there was a partial dissent reflected in this memo that was declassified, and the FBI was the one agency that didn't fully agree 100% with the assessment. They agreed with it overall, but they said there were some officials in the regime in Venezuela that were facilitating the movement of gang members from Tren de Aragua to the U.S. and other countries to destabilize those countries. But it was sort of a caveat. Now, there were other views in the memo that other intelligence agencies questioned this because some of that information might be from people under detention who might be just telling interrogators what they want to hear. So their best guess is that this gang is highly decentralized and is not operating under the direction of the Venezuelan regime. But of course, the question now is how this plays out in court. Will this intelligence memo end up working against the government's own arguments in court?
All right, Dan DeLuce, thank you for your reporting. Appreciate it.
Yeah. So, as you could see, the Lord is about to start coming after you tribes, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, right? And then, as you could see, it's starting off with you so-called Hispanic tribes, you indigenous tribes, right? That was here in America, right? Which is basically the Northern Kingdom, right? So, just like before, the same thing the Lord is doing now, starting off with the Northern Kingdom, but this is also Esau's using the conditions of illegal immigrants, but not just that. He's using cartels, saying cartels is the biggest threats to American society, right? So it says, the word of Yahweh came unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother, or one woman, daughter of one mother, Shalakia, and they committed whoredom in Egypt, right? And so when you understand that we were all one tribe, all 12 tribes was in Egypt at once upon a time, right? And Egypt is also spiritually synonymous with America, spiritually, right? And it says, they committed whoredom in their youth. There were their breasts pressed, and there they bruised the teats or treats of their virginity, right? So in a time of us being a young nation, we learned a lot of different behavior things in Egypt, right? Which old Egypt or Mizraim was a lot like America, right? There was a lot of, Moism, strife against your brother, things like that. And that's the same thing that goes on here today in spiritual Egypt, right? Because matter of fact, let's get that. Right. So this is Exodus chapter 2, verse 13. It says, and when he went out the second day, right, which is talking about Moses, went out a second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews, right, which are Israelites, strove together, and he said to him that did the wrong. So you did wrong. That what you did wasn't right. You know it's wrong. Wherefore smite thy fellow, which means your brother. Why? You were in the wrong. Why did you smite your brother? Right. So this is what was going on in Egypt. This is the time of Egypt, right? It says, and he said, who made thee a prince? Right. Unbeknownst to him that the Most High made him a prince. A prince meaning a ruler, and he made him the Most High didn't make him a ruler over you. But at that time they didn't know that yet. But these are probably some jakes that probably even got put to death during the thing because they're just hard headed, right? He know he did wrong, and then who are you to say something to me, right? You a prince, you a ruler over me, and and a judge, right? Which means a ruler, right? Over us, intended thus to kill me, as thus killed the Egyptian, right? So this is where these so-called plantation Christianity goes wrong. Here it is. Even Moses was a Levite he was an Israelite from the tribe of Levi, right? And he believed in nationhood, nationality, protecting his people, right? And he slew an Egyptian for his people, right? But these guys didn't have the mentality of having nationhood. The one did the wrong, and he's the one who's still fighting them. And then he turned around and said, who are you? Right? The same kind of conditions that we have here in America, Babylon the Great. Right? Right? Which is spiritually Egypt, spiritually Assyria. Right? Spiritually Sodom. Yes, Sodom and Egypt. Right? So that's this place. He says, and Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Right? So it must be known, hey, that he's about his people. He's for his people, man. Right? This ain't no thing for everybody, right? Yeah, so this is Acts chapter 7, verse 26. And the next day, which is going over the same account of Moses, and he says, and the next day he shewed himself unto them as they strove, right? They were fighting, right? And the same thing you jakes do today. You from the different gangs and you gang banging against each other. But see, we're out there on the highways and the Bible is telling you, hey, something's coming down the pike, right? Things is about to change. The Lord is about to judge. So we've been warning. And it said, and would have set them at one again, right? Put them in the right type of mind frame, so to speak, right? Saying, sirs, ye are brethren, right? See, and that's what we've been saying. Look, man, y'all don't need to be fighting y'all brothers, man, right? But then you get the don't be a menace to society mentality. What? You trying to be smart? Oh, you trying to kick knowledge? You know what I'm saying? Well, oh, you trying to get smart? Man, You know what I'm saying? And rob and kill your brother any goddamn way, right? You know? It says, ye are brethren, right? So he's trying to put you Jakes in the right, and it was the same thing then. It's the same thing now. But see, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushua is going to allow his sword on the left-hand side to come down upon you. And they're using this tactic towards you. And yea, it says, and why do ye wrong one to another? So why do you keep doing wrong to each other? Right? It says, but he that did his neighbor wrong, thrust him away, right? Hey man, get out of here, man. Get out of my face, right? So to speak. Who made thee a ruler, right? See? And a judge over us, right? Which ultimately the Most High did, right? Will thus kill me as thus did it kill the Egyptian yesterday, right? Which he was in the spirit, man. Moses was in the spirit of rising up for his people, right? And so no, we don't get carnal like that. But you gotta be in the right mind frame. That's why he said, look, sirs, don't you know? You're brothers, man. Why do each other wrong? Why say you're a Crip and you're a Blood? And why say you a GD and a Vice Lord? Why say you're an Hispanic gang and you don't get down with the blacks, the Morenos, the Mayates, and all this other stuff? Why are you thinking? You don't know that you're brothers? You don't know that the so-called black, Hispanic, and Native Indians are Israelites? That's what we do. But y'all go about your own thing, doing your own thing. But things is about to change drastically, right? Right? Yeah, this is Ezekiel chapter 23. Start at verse 1. It says, "And the word of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Ruach HaKodesh, came again unto me, saying, Son of man, there were two women, the daughters of one mother," right? Which is talking about the land Israel, right? Right. Right. Or you can even be talking. You can even reference to wisdom, right? Because even before we got into the land, we were a people, and the Mount Sinai is where we got the law, statutes, and commandments written on stone, right? Even though we had it before that within us, but we strayed so far away that the Lord had to write the laws on stone, which comes from wisdom, right? Which is reference as a woman, right? And because it's nourishing, right? It's not you don't see a woman is greater. Let's be the queen of heaven type thing. No, it's just showing you that it nourishes you, right? The law, statutes, commandments, right? The precepts basically, right? And it says and they committed whoredom in Egypt. See, and this is before we got the law, statutes, commandments. When we were in Egypt, so you committed whoredom in Egypt, right? Which America is also spiritually known as Egypt, right? So you commit whoredoms also. So here of America, right? Even those those Colombians and what they call Colombians. I believe that's Asher. You got oh no, that was it Naphtali. I think it's Naphtali, Colombia, Naphtali. You got Issachar, and so in Mexico, who brings up drugs and things like that to America, and America being Egypt. Even though you're not in America, you're basically you're committing the whoredoms of Egypt by sending those drugs and things like that, and that's by way of how you get currency and this and that, how you even come up with this cartel business, right? For sending the money to Egypt, right? To America, which is spiritually Egypt. But back then, this is actually talking about the actual ancient Egypt, which was Mizraim, right? But we're just making that parallel understanding, right? Because they had all sorts of hallucinogens and Moism and all sorts of stuff in ancient Egypt. The same thing they pull here in spiritual modern day Egypt, which is America, Babylon the Great. They committed whoredom in their youth, right? There were there, there were their breasts pressed, and they bruised the teats of their virginity, right? Which is basically talking about, the innocency of just barely trying to become a nation, right? You're meant to set up to be righteous, but instead you're following behind the ways of of of, of, of Egypt for the sake of it being, that's one of the things that they'll tell you. This is the modern age. You have to follow what's going on right now. Those are the things that was old, and Jake has always been about that. What's new, what's happening. You know what I mean? And that's why you end up forgetting the ways of your forefathers. But the scripture says, "Seek ye the old path, man." You don't just put it off because you think, oh, it's old and it's not. It's very significant, right? And her name and the names of them were Aholah, the elder, right, which would be the northern kingdom, and Aholabah, her sister, which would be the southern kingdom, right? Northern kingdom, you so-called Puerto Ricans, right? North American Indians, you Mexicans, Colombians, Cubans, right? Dominicans, right? Which goes back into the well, there's nine, it's 10 tribes, but it's really, I believe it's 9, because Levi, who went over to the northern kingdom, went back to the southern kingdom, right? And I believe Benjamin too, right? A large part of Benjamin went back to the southern kingdom, right? Because there were 3 tribes under the southern kingdom, right? Which that consists of the so-called African American, so-called Jamaican, West Indies, and Haitians, right? Right, which would be the southern kingdom, and they were mine, right? We belong to the Most High, and they bare sons and daughters, right? Which means brought them forth, right? You had children, descendants, unto this very day. That's why we're telling you that this is spiritual Egypt, because you bore children and unto this day, but you come back in your 3rd or 4th generation. So we've been reincarnated several times, and that's why the same type of mistakes have been happening. But the Lord is going to raise up that remnant, that elect, so that way that doesn't keep perpetual in the earth, right? Because judgment has to go forth, right? So, thus, were their sons, Samaria, right, which would be the northern kingdom, is Aholah, and Jerusalem, right, which is to be the southern kingdom, Aholabah, says, and Aholah played the harlot, right, which is spiritual adultery, right? Right. Well, they did physical adultery too, right? But the Lord is talking about you're supposed to follow His law, statutes, commandments, and basically we're supposed to be married, which means to join. And the scriptures, it talks about the what is it called? Leviticus, right? Which when you go into Leviticus, especially like the Levites, it's bun loya, which means bun meaning son, loya meaning law. Um, I forgot how the thing go, but yeah, law. Wait, bun, law. Yeah, bun, law, which is law, and then Yah, right, which meaning the Most High. So it means basically son of the law, joined to the Most High, right? Right. So that law is supposed to be joined unto Him, and that's what we were all supposed to have. The law that's joined unto the Most High. So that's basically what it's saying. You're supposed to be married unto Him, joined unto the Most High through the law, statutes, and commandments, right? And when she was mine, and she uh, doted, right? Doted, right? Because it's she doted her lovers on the Assyrian, her neighbor, right? Let me see if I can.
And Aholah played the harlot when she was mine, and she doted on her lovers.
Yes, he doted on her lovers, right?
Dote.
It says that she doted on her lovers, right? And then part of the definition is
Adore.
they adored, and then this one's what?
Idolize.
Idolize, right? And idolize goes into basically being like an idol. So then you're worshiping. Worship being your these other people, and then basically you're breaking the first law, is have no other God before me. So that's right that moment you're committing spiritual adultery, right? It says so basically they committed that spiritual adultery, which obviously the Lord said have no other God before me, which is going to angry the Father. The Father is going to be angry, you know, right along with the Son, because the Son's on the right hand of the Father. Even then, I mean, if he's not in his incarnation, he's on the right hand of the Father, right? It says which were clothed with blue, captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses, right? Which basically to them they looked at like, you know, like this great empire. They look like these great people, right? Forgetting that that you're the sons of God. You're actually gods, right? You're actually the gods of the earth. But that's Jake. They're paying attention to everything that's going on around them, and instead of obeying what the Most High says for you to do, you do these things that's going to put you in a low condition, because obviously it's going to make the Lord angry with you, right? And now you're gonna suffer the Father's punishment, right? For being this way, for worshiping Him, idolizing Him, right? And not following into your own law, statutes, commandments. Thus she committed whoredom with them. See, then you start following their customs, their laws, and then what? Ultimately, you start worshiping what? Their gods, right? Now I don't know what how they law thing was for them, but I know under the Greek, they, you know, and the Roman, they had that, like the plebeian and patricians, right? Kind of like here you have the Democrat and the Republican, and people fall under that thing, following their ways, and then all of a sudden you're either Christian or you're Muslim or you're Buddhist, and ultimately, of course, because this place, Babylon the Great, is so decrepit and filed. It makes sense why you would be as Gnostic, man, because all the things that are going on, you'd be like, how could there be a God when there's so much corruption, so much everything going on? How could there be a God? Which that's understandable, you know. Especially in a demonic place like this, in a demonic place like Assyria, like Egypt, Greece, Rome. Those were the very demonic places, man. But we had Persia. Don't forget about Persia, Babylon. These are places we had to serve under. And now we're in this last captivity here in Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, also spiritually known as Egypt and Assyria, which that they brought in those Assyrian customs, which are pretty much Babylon, because I believe the Assyrians and the Babylonians were relatives, so they had a lot of very similar customs as Babylon. And then, of course, this is Greece all over again. This is Rome all over again, right? And they've always were intrigued with the Egyptians' custom, so they brought in that thing, right? That's why you have the pyramid on the dollar bill, right? Symbolizing they have the Israelites in captivity, right? Whether you understand it or believe it or not. Yep. And then she committed whoredom with them, with all of them that were the chosen men of Assyria, right? And basically, the Syrian people were very closely related to the Babylonians. They were basically like family, cousins or something like that. They were family. They were related. And with all whom she doted, right? Which basically she worshipped, right? The Northern Kingdom started basically worshiping their way of life, right? Whether, I don't know, their political agenda at that time, adoring their gods and their women, and just something about the way they marched down the street with their horses, and they were just amazed at this, right? Right? They were just intrigued. It says, so basically they committed that spiritual adultery, which obviously the Lord said, "Have no other God before me," which is going to angry the Father. The Father is going to be angry, you know, right? Right along with the Son, because the Son's on the right hand of the Father. Even then, I mean, if he's not in his incarnation, he's on the right hand of the Father, right? It says, which were clothed with blue, captains and rulers, all of them desirable young men, horsemen riding upon horses, right? Which basically to them they looked at like, you know, like this great empire. They look like these great people, right? Forgetting that the Lord, that you're the sons of God, you're actually gods, right? You're actually the gods of the earth. But that's Jake. They're paying attention to what everything that's going on around them, and instead of obeying what the Most High says for you to do, you do these things that's going to put you in a low condition, because obviously it's going to make the Lord angry with you, right? And now you're gonna suffer the Father's punishment, right? For being this way, for worshiping Him, idolizing Him, right? And not following your own law, statutes, commandments. Thus she committed whoredom with them. See, then you start following their customs, their laws, and then what? Ultimately, you start worshiping what? Their gods, right? Now I don't know what how they law thing was for them, but I know under the Greek, they, you know, and the Roman, they had that, like the plebeian and patricians, right? Kind of like here you have the Democrat and the Republican, and people fall under that thing, following their ways, and then all of a sudden you're either Christian or you're Muslim or you're Buddhist, and ultimately, of course, because this place, Babylon the Great, is so decrepit and filed. It makes sense why you would be as Gnostic, man, because all the things that are going on, you'd be like, how could there be a God when there's so much corruption, so much everything going on? How could there be a God? Which, that's understandable, you know. Especially in a demonic place like this, in a demonic place like Assyria, like Egypt, Greece, Rome. Those were the very demonic places, man. But we had to, Persia. Don't forget about Persia, Babylon. These are places we had to serve under. And now we're in this last captivity here in Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, also spiritually known as Egypt and Assyria, which that they brought in those Assyrian customs, which is pretty much Babylon, because I believe the Assyrians and the Babylonians were relatives, so they had a lot of very similar customs as Babylon. And then, of course, this is Greece all over again. This is Rome all over again, right? And they've always were intrigued with the Egyptians' custom, so they brought in that thing, right? That's why you have the pyramid on the dollar bill, right? Symbolizing they have the Israelites in captivity, right? Whether you understand it or believe it or not. Yep. And then she committed whoredom with them, with all of them that were the chosen men of Assyria, right? And basically, the Syrian people were very closely related to the Babylonians. They were basically like family, cousins or something like that. They were family. They were related. And with all whom she doted, right? Which basically she worshipped, right? The Northern Kingdom started basically worshiping their way of life, right? Whether, I don't know, their political agenda at that time, adoring their gods and their women, and just something about the way they march down the street with their horses, and it was just how they march through with their horses or something like that. I don't know. Like this. That's Jake. Like horses were like the cars back then. You know how Jake is about a car. You know. We even used to do it as kids. Car go, but that's my car. That's my car. Hey, Jake is serious about cars and certain things and a certain status in life, right? So with all her idols, see, and eventually they started worshiping their idols, their gods, all their idols, and she defiled herself, right? Which is basically spiritual adultery. That's what the Lord's saying. When you defile, because it talks about defiling the marriage bed, which is actual adultery, but this is spiritual adultery. So she defiled herself with other false ideologies, right? Which is the same thing what happened to Adam and Eve in the garden. It wasn't because they ate a fruit. A fruit doesn't have knowledge, right? It's talking about a philosophy, an opposite way of what the Most High taught them to do, right? If the Lord say don't do, then you don't do. You don't have another God before the Most High, and that's ultimately what that was in the Garden of Eden, right? They basically put another God before them, which was their selves. And the vain philosophies of the world. It says, neither left she her whoredom. Neither did she left her whoredom brought forth from Egypt, right? So she would continue in the same practices that she did in Egypt, which this is spiritual Egypt. So basically, a lot of them come from Venezuela or Mexico or whatever. You come from around the world, and especially you Jakes that's already here in America. You're so saturated in the American customs, which is all sorts of debauchery and wickedness, right? My sister used to date a guy from Jamaica, and his mother said she couldn't understand. In Jamaica, she never had to lie in order to get things done, because she was an older woman. So you had to call whatever assistance you're trying to get from the government. You had to put a bunch of lies on the application just so you can get some things done. She said she never experienced that before where she's from, where you had to lie to get by. And then that's this place right here. In order to send your kid to a good school, you got to say you live in a district that you don't live in, so you can send your kid to a good school, right? Then you got a bunch of Karens, a bunch of Shedemites who try to, oh, wait a minute, this person don't live in this, and try to make a big deal out of it, right? But you have to do what you have to do in order to send your kid to at least to a decent school, because you're gonna constantly give us, well, this whole place is miseducated, right? But you try to do what you can do, and in this place, just as an example, showing you have to lie to even get something noble done. That's a noble thing, to try to send your kid to a good school, right? Trying to raise them to be the best you can, so you're not just some whatever in the world, right? You know what I mean? And they'll try to come shit on that. That's just you Edomites, just in general, man. Right? For in her youth, they laid with her, right? Yeah, see? Right? Dealing with the different the customs, right? Breaking the laws, man, and the law, statutes, commandments, and they laid with her, right? Which is basically spiritual adultery, and bruised the breast of her virginity, right? And poured their whoredom upon her, right? Yeah. Giving all these different philosophies, telling them this and that, and this is this God, and that's this God, and you should do this, and blah 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 blah, and you should worship Ashereth, and blah 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 blah. Right? So it says, wherefore I have delivered her into the hands of her lover. So basically, just like in that time, the Lord delivered the northern kingdom into the hand of the Assyrian, this modern day spiritual Assyrian, the Lord is about to deliver you into the hands of Esau Edom, the slayer, man. He's gonna come down with great wrath, knowing that he had but a short time, man. He's going to be a madman sparing none, man. Whether old, young, child, little baby, old man, old woman. This man is about to slaughter you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians. But he's starting off with the Northern Kingdom, right? Called gradualism, right? And it says into the hand of the Assyrian, right? And as I said, this is spiritually Assyria, which is America, Babylon the Great. And upon them that doted, right? Upon whom she doted, it's like who you thought they were so great. You damn near you worshiping the goddamn Assyrians. You worshiping these Edomites, man. A lot of you so-called Puerto Ricans, so-called Mexicans, so-called Native Americans, you think you're white. But guess what? They're gonna show you that you're not. Right? It says those discovered her nakedness, right? Yeah, all your weaknesses, all your things that are gonna expose you. And your nakedness is not keeping the law, statute, commandments. Because if you go back to Judith, it says if we keep the laws, that no nation ought not to ever come against us, because they're gonna lose, and they're gonna be a reproach in the world. They're gonna be a laughing stock in the world if they ever come against Israel. And we're keeping the law, statutes, and commandments. God is gonna defend us. But a lot of you're not. The Lord ain't coming to defend you, because you're in all sorts of spiritual adultery, right? They took her sons and her daughters, right? And there's a thing called, especially you Native Americans here, you understand that it's a thing called Indian schools, right? Which are reprogramming situation, which that's what they're finna do again. Re-educational stations with these FEMA camps and with these concentration camps, right? Figure out which ones you're going to be labeled blue, red, yellow, whatever, however it goes, and if you're I believe if you're blue, right? Blue, they kill you, and if you're red, it's somebody that they can they figure they could work with you or something like that. I forgot how it goes, but basically they got this color thing, and that's what they're gonna put you under. And whether they can re-educate you or not, or whether they could should they just kill you or try to re-educate you? And that's what's about to happen. They take your sons, took her sons and her daughters, and slew her with the sword, right? See, and all your ancient men, your men, they're gonna slay with the sword, man, woman, and children. But the main thing is that they're gonna start at breaking this thing on down, getting at the women, the children, the mighty men, right? And she becomes famous among women, for they that executed judgment upon her, right? And man, Cristobal Colon, going into 70 AD, he said he wanted to be remembered that he never laid down his sword. And you're remembered by a thing called Thanksgiving, right? You're remembered. You're famous for Thanksgiving. It says, and when her sister Aholibah, right, which is the Southern Kingdom, you so-called black African American, which black is not a nationality, doesn't make sense. African American is not a nationality, right? Jamaican, West Indian Jamaican means wet wood or something like that. West Indies, right? That's a direction. Doesn't make sense. That's not a nationality. But you so-called African Americans, so-called Jamaican, West Indies, and Haitians, right? Which Hades is like a Greek term for a place in hell, right? Which there's no such thing as hell, right? So I mean, hell is a condition. Yeah, you're going through hell over there. It's one hell of a condition that you're going through when you're making mud cookies and all sorts of madness. Hey, but it says, saw this, she was more corrupt in her inordinate love. Let me see if I'm saying it right.
And when her sister Aholibah saw this, she was more corrupt in her inordinate love than she.
In her inordinate love than she. So the Southern Kingdom was more corrupt in following the customs of the Babylonians, right? Then she in her whoredoms more than her in her whoredom. So we did more wickedness than the northern kingdom. She doted, right, worshipped upon the Assyrians. So she worshipped upon the Assyrians, her neighbors, captains, and rulers clothed much graciously, horsemen, riders upon horses, all of them desirable young men. Then I saw that she was defiled, right? Spiritual adultery, going into their philosophies, worshiping their gods, doing their customs, not following the law, statutes, commandments of the Most High, which they basically breaking the first commandment in the very first thing, right? Oh, what they tell you? First things first, always, right? You got to do the first thing first. But they already there. They're breaking the first thing, having another god before the Most High. So then I saw that she was defiled, that they took both away. See, we went into captivity, and we're both here in America, Babylon the Great. It says, Judah and Ephraim are oppressed together here in Babylon the Great, America, the daughter of Babylon, also spiritually known as Sodom and Assyria and Egypt, right? That she increased her whoredoms, for when she saw men portrayed upon the wall with images, right? Going into these different idols, images of the Chaldeans, right? Going into the Babylonians, right? That's the Chaldeans portrayed with vermilion, vermilion, girded with girdles upon their loins, exceeding in dyed attire upon their heads. So basically, they were even trying to dress like the Babylonians, basically, right? Because when it says Chaldean, that goes into the Babylonians, because it went from they were worshiping the Assyrians to they seen the great images of the Babylonians, and they were like, oh shit, let's follow the Babylonians instead of the Assyrians. This is the southern kingdom, which that's why the northern kingdom went under the captivity under the Assyrians, and the northern kingdom went under the captivity of the Assyrians, and the southern kingdom went under the captivity of the Babylonians, which went into two different captivities, right? Even though they were closely related, right? Because the Assyrian is when it's like a lion with wings, but then it tells you that the lion, the wings got ripped off, and the lion stood straight up, right? And that would be the Babylonians, which basically showing that their empire was basically it was split. Something happened, but then the Babylonians end up being the ones who are more in power at the end, right? And it says, and girded with girdles upon their loins, exceedingly with dyed attire, right, upon their heads, and all of them princes to look after the manner. Oh yeah, see, and they were following. Yeah, they seen what the Babylonians. Yeah, see what they were doing, and they was like, wow, look at them with this stuff on their head and this attire, and Jake wanted to do it, right? Following their gods, their customs, their way of dress, everything, right? Them princes to look to after the manner of what? Of the Babylonians, of the Chaldeans, and the land of their nativity. So basically, nativity means the place you were born. So they're taking this thing back to Jerusalem. They're taking this back to where they were born at, to basically their homeland, their birthland. Taking this back to Jerusalem, trying to keep these customs in the land, and you didn't do nothing but anger the Father, and that's why we're here in the actual land of the north, where the Lord is going to deliver us from. Right? It will no longer be said he He delivered them from Egypt, but he's saying he delivered them from the land of north, which is Babylon the Great, spiritually Sodom, spiritually Egypt, spiritually, Assyria, So with all that, I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakha HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well. To the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds preaching the truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect. The elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father and have come back to the fold. Shalom to your sisters, you Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and above all, Kwam Yasharallah. Yeah, I'm going to show you this little video showing you what Esau has in store for you Jakes, for you Northern Kingdom, you so-called, from Ephraim, the so-called Puerto Ricans, all the way down to the so-called Mexicans. This is what Esau has planned for you. Yeah, and don't forget about you so-called Negro tribes, so-called African Americans, so-called Haitian and Jamaican. Yeah, hey, they got it for you too. You're next. This is where they're starting at. So yeah. See, then they're giving them papers with some legalese that nobody understand, and they're telling them, hey, look, they're trying to send us over to from Texas over to El Salvador or wherever they're trying to send them to, and they're gonna try to send them there without due process, without anything. Basically, once you're there, you're there. There's no getting out. There ain't nobody there to say, hey, you got this person wrong. You got the wrong person. There's nothing no one can say. Right? Yeah. So we told you, Jakes, and we told you, Jakes. Where it says, Revelation chapter 12, verse 10, and I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation. See, and that's really for the elect, right? For those who listened and hearkened, and really it was ordained, and it was from the heavens who would actually hear and hearken, right? It was predestined, Salakia. That's a better way to say it. It's preordained or predestined, right? So Revelation chapter 10 verse 12 of Salakia, chapter 12 verse 10. And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, now is come salvation for the elect, right? But you 2/3, hey, you didn't, hey, but you can't say you didn't get a fair warning. You didn't get a fair chance. Even your grandmama, even though she didn't really know nothing, she would tell you, hey, boy, you need not do that. You need to serve the Lord. You know what I'm saying? Even though she gave you jivas, it was still trying to lead you down a righteous path instead of the things that you were going on, right? And if you think about all the brothers that's in the truth right now, we started off down that path, right? Searching for the Lord. knowing that there was something else. There was a groaning in our heart and our mind, la'ab, in our mind and our spirit, saying, "Hey, I got to get the freak out of here. Like this is madness out here." But you enjoy you enjoy the madness. You love it, right? But salvation is coming for the elect, and strong and strength, and the kingdom of our power, the Most High Yahweh, through His only begotten Son, right? Which is going to say, our power, the Most High Yahweh, the power of His Hamashiach, right? Which is Yahweh Shai, for the accuser, right? Which is Esau Edom, the accuser of the brethren, right? Which is the devil, which that's where you get the word devil means. Devil actually means accuser, right? The accuser of the brethren is cast down, right? And that's ultimately what's going to happen. He's going to lose, but before he get cast down, the Lord has a judgment for you tribes, right? Which accuse them before our power, the Most High Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Kadash, day and night, right? And how do you think he's using you numbskulls and trying to wrap the elect in that, which the elect is separate, man, right? The Lord has already preordained the elect to not to even be anything like you. But this is Esau's reasoning and how he think he can lump us, but you can't lump us all in together with one pop, because the crazy thing is they'll tell you that about them. Well, if something Weinstein and something Berg or whatever, he stole money from you and he did a shiesty deal, well, that's him. That's not all the, small hat Jewish community, right? He committed some type of atrocities and murders and things. Hey, you can't lump all the Jewish people up with and not a Jew, right? And not a Jew. Don't lump us all in with him. But see, that's the thing you try to do to us, but the Lord ain't gonna allow it, right? Right? It says that, and they overcame. Yeah, you see, they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb. See, hey man, hey, beautiful. See, I was just speaking through the Spirit. I didn't even know it was gonna come in like that. Boom, right? And they overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony. Right? See, the Lord said, "Gird up your loins like a man." You got that testimony, man. Speaking with testicular fortitude, calling you the devil in your face on the highways and the byways, man. And they love not their lives unto death, right? Because we're going to go into these things too, right? Because they're trying to lump us up together with them. But we don't love this life, man. We don't love this world as you may see it and you may know it, right? We're looking to the world to come, right? So therefore rejoice, ye heavens, and ye that dwell in them. Say, hey, look, our rulership is coming. So we're finna rejoice that our rulership is coming, starting with Yahweh Shai, because it's really his rulership. It belongs to Yahweh Shai and King David, man. And we're rightfully so glad that he finally can get his praise, right? He went through all these man, the cross. Can you understand being beaten? They say most people die from the beating of the cat of nine tails. They died just from that, but he stood back up just so he could take on the full punishment. Then he was up on the cross. It was like he was drowning. He was drowning in his fluids, right? All for the elect's sake, man. And ultimately, all Israel's going to be saved, but it's ultimately for the elect's sake for this go around, right? Right. So we're going to rejoice because, man, Yahweh Shai's finally going to get what he deserved, which is his kingdom, man, to get his glory, his praise, his honor, right? But woe, wait, right there. Woe, which means destruction, judgment, weeping and gnashing of teeth, to them, to the inhabitants of the earth, right? Because Yahweh Shai is coming to wreak havoc on this place, man. Judgment is ultimately coming, right? The inhabitants of the earth and of the sea, right? Meaning the people. For the devil, right, the accuser, right, is come down unto you having great wrath, because he knoweth that he have but a short time. And that's ultimately what he's doing right there. Yeah, so this is 2 Ezra chapter 16, verse 70. For there shall be in every place, right? So this is going to happen all over the world, right? In every state in America. So it's going to be in every place. In the next city great insurrection upon those that fear Yahweh. So really, this thing that they're doing to round up you Jakes, to send you to Nicaragua or what's the other one? That goddamn other prison, Guantanamo Bay. Yeah, there you go. Guantanamo Bay and all these other different things. They're really doing it so they can try to get their hands on the elect, right? Those who fear the Lord. That's what they ultimately doing it for, right? It says they shall be like madmen, right? And so the point is you can't look at someone and say that this person's the elect or not. And through the apostles, we have made that abundantly clear. You can't just look at this person and just assume this person's the elect or not the elect just from looking at it. So what they're going to do is they know that you all are the Israelites, and so they're just going to try to destroy all of you in order to get to the elect. Yep. I mean, they did it in the time of Yahweh Shai. They destroyed a bunch of other children that had nothing to do with anything, but it was really in order to search for Yahweh Shai. They just knew it was a young baby, freshly born at some point in time. And so they went and they was like, hey, let's not even take any chances. Let's not just kill just the newborns. Kill them all the way to the time of being a toddler, 3 or 4 or 5 years old. Kill them all. Just in the chance that any of these other kids are the elect. Right? Or that guy, you know? So that's what they're going to do with all you Jakes. They're going to just try to massacre as much as you can, trying to exterminate, to try to stump out that elect seed. But they're not going to be able to do it, right? They shall be like madmen, sparing none, but still spoiling and destroying those that fear Yahweh, right? Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. See, it's ultimately to get after the elect, but it's not going to work. For they shall waste and take away their goods and cast them out of their houses, right? Try to make people homeless, try to make miserable conditions, put you into these different concentration camps, try to just really put a hurting on your life, right? It says, then shall they be known who are my chosen. And then the Lord's going to lift up a standard at some point. And you're going to see that those elect men get spiritual power, spiritual gifts, or just have these angels come down and just be around them. And you're going to physically see the angels. And they're going to be like now, like brothers go out to camp and angels that camp around them that fear the Lord, and you can't see them, but they're there. This time they're going to make themselves visible. Right? Right? And it says, then shall they be known who are my chosen, and they shall be tried as gold in the fire, right? So we got to go through our own hell, right? So to speak. We got to go through our own trials and tribulations, our own hell, our own bumps and bruises throughout all this different shifting around of Esau trying to destroy us, right? Because you're gonna know that this is the devil, man. You're gonna know he don't love you, right? It says, and hear, O ye my beloved, saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakal Kadash. Behold, the days of trouble, right? And that's where we're headed to. This is the time we're in. Time of Jacob's trouble. The days of trouble are at hand, right? See? And they're at hand. And I will deliver you from the same, right? Dealing with the elect. The Lord is going to deliver the elect. Yeah. So this is Jeremiah chapter 30, verse 6. Ask now and see whether a man doeth travail with woman, which means do a man look like he's going to have birth with have a child, right? Have a man ever had a baby? No, a man has never had a baby, right? And when you deal with having a baby, there's a thing called birth pains, and that pain is very harsh, right, so to speak. And there's nothing you could do about it. Like when a woman's having birth pains, it's a very intense pain, and there's nothing she could do about it. And that's the thing that's about to come upon you, right? You Jakes, you so-called Hispanic tribes, you Northern Kingdom tribes, all the way to you Jakes, you Southern Kingdom tribes, right? All you tribes, you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, you're about to be in trouble, right? Because you didn't serve the power that you were supposed to serve. You didn't serve God the way you were supposed to. You didn't serve Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, so you're going to be in trouble, right? So it says, wherefore doeth I see every man with his hand upon his loins as a woman in travail, and saying a burp, you can't put it off, right? They do something here in Esau's land, right? Edom's land, right? The self-proclaimed so-called white man, and they give you an epidural or something, and it cuts it down a little bit. But you should see the women when if you ever been in there when the woman's having a baby, she's still going even after the epidural. So it's a thing you can't even put off. See, and it's a thing you won't be able to do, especially when your enemy's gonna come in like a flood. You're not gonna have time to let me take a couple of drinks. Let me hit some drugs so I can kind of numb the pain. That's a time where you want to be alert. You want to be on your P's and Q's. You want to be on your best. You want to be on your P's and Q's, man, so to speak. You want to be on your toes. You want to be able to float like a butterfly and sting like a bee at that time, right? So to speak, right? But it says, and all the faces are turned to paleness, right? Which is shame. Nothing you could do. Frightness. You're afraid. It's fear. Fear is going to come, right? It says, all, alas, for that day is great, so that none is like it. It is even the time of Yaqub's trouble, right? Which is Jacob's trouble, what they call Jacob, right? In this, this modern world, but his real name is Yaqub, right? Trouble. But ye shall be saved out of it. Who? The elect, man. Those who the Lord preordained, but also they hearkened. It wasn't like you just, I'm preordained, and you just sat there and twiddled your thumb. No, you went out and you did the work. You listened, you believed, you feared, you had faith. You strive for the masteries, man. Right? For it shall come to pass in that day, saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash, of hosts, which means armies, that I will bring his yoke. No, I will break. So I will break his yoke from off thy neck, right? Which is talking about Esau, man. We're no longer going to be in bondage unto this devil, man. Right? From off thy neck, and burst the bonds, right? We got all of these different bonds, the birth certificate, the Social Security. You got I forgot. There's so many different layers of bondage that they try to have upon us, right? So we can stay slaves, your debts and all these other things. The Lord's going to take everything away, right? First, wiping out this system, right? And strangers shall no more serve themselves of him, right? So we're never going to be in slavery under any heathen nation ever again, right? Not the Assyrians, not the Babylonians, and damn sure not these Neo-Babylonian, Assyrian, Egyptian, Sodom system of Esau, Edom, man, right? Never again. But they shall serve the power. They shall serve the Most High Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, their power, and David, their king. See, and that's where we're coming to. We're coming into that time period, man. Shortly, real soon. And this is what the elite are afraid of. And this is why they got to come in like this. Whom I have raised up unto them, right? Yeah, so this is Isaiah chapter 59, verse 18. According to their deeds, accordingly he will repay, right? The Most High is going to make them repay, man. He's gonna turn this upon their head, right? He's going to make Esau pay, right? Fury to his adversaries, right? Esau is our number one adversary, but all these nations are. And recompense to his enemies, right? Starting with Esau, to the islands, he will repay recompense, right? So all these different places. Whether you think I did something to them and I just moved off to an island and I'm remote and I haven't did nothing to the Israelites in a long time. Nope, you're still gonna get repaid. You're gonna get it, man. So shall they fear the name of Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakakwadash, from the west, and that's where we start at, right? right? One was it Harlem, 125th in Harlem, right? Which vocab call it Hebrew Israelism, right? But it started here in the West, right? And his glory from the rising of the sun, right? And the glory is going to happen once the Lord gets his throne, and it's going to be what? Back into the eastward in the garden, right? He's going to get that glory once again, starting with Yahweh Shai, and then, of course, King David, right? Then the enemy shall come in like a flood, right? Because the Lord's telling you to end from the beginning. But in order for all this to take place, guess what has to happen? The enemy shall come in like a flood, right? So the enemy's got to grab you tribes up, put you in all these different conditions, and then they got to try to set up so they can try to get their hands upon the elect, which they are. A lot of times they're going to get their hands on. But then when now that happens, right? When the enemy shall come in like a flood, the spirit of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, shall lift up a standard against him. See, and then that's when brothers are going to get in spiritual powers. All sorts of things are going to happen. Chariots are going to come in, start laser beaming a lot of these military guys in all these different places. Things are gonna happen. Wild beasts has never been seen before is going to be running around. You're going to have apparitions. You're going to have all sorts. Man, it's going to be crazy. And of course, Esau going to release his goddamn AIs, his goddamn RoboCops, right? And all sorts of things are going to be. It's going to be crazy, bro, crazy, right? And it says, but the Lord is going to lift up a spirit against him, right? And the Redeemer shall come to Zion, right? To the elect, right? It's going to come to the remembrance of the elect, man. And unto them that turn from transgression in Yaquab, right? See, you Jakes, you're just doing your own thing. You ain't turning from transgression, right? And Yaquab saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, as for me, this is my covenant with them, saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh, my spirit that is upon them, and my words which I have put in their mouth. See, hey, this is really, you think you're coming against us, but these are the words that Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, had put in our mouth, right? Shall not depart out of their mouths. Hey, and they're gonna depart out of our mouth. So forget about it, man. Right? We're always gonna speak this. We're gonna always speak the word and the truth and the spirit and the light of Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Neither out of the mouth of thy seed, nor out of the mouth of thy seeds, right? Because the Lord's gonna come and rule forever and ever and ever, man. Right? So we're gonna have plenty of generations of our children that's gonna live, because we're gonna live forever, man. We're always gonna speak what's upright, right? Say it, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh, henceforth and forever, right? Yeah, so this is Ezekiel chapter 21, verse 9. Son of man, prophesy and say, thus saith Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem HaKadosh, say a sword is sharpened, right? And they've been preparing that jade helm. I don't know if you ever heard about jade helm. I don't know if you can find it, the information, but you should look it up. The jade helm. I mean, they kind of don't really got the Rex 84, the King Alfred plan. These are things they've been planning for quite some time. That now, if you look it up, they say it's a urban legend or urban myth, things like that. But we know that this is things that they've been planning to do, right? And that's what they're doing it. So now it's coming in fruition, right? They're saying that the cartel is their biggest threat, right? They're going to mention the so-called fentanyl problem, right? Which really is them. They the one who let it. When you find out the CIA, right, allegedly is the one who let it all come through, right? Now they have a problem. Now that's a reaction, which they're making reaction, and the solution is to charagma everybody, right? To get everybody all charagma and kill those that they could kill in order to try to prevent prophecy from happening, right? Because they're trying to preserve their kingdom. And this is, by the way, where they think they could do it. See, you got to say a sword, right? The modern day sword is a gun, or basically their system, because their penmanship is a weapon. It's a sword. They pass their law as they break every law. They'll turn around and write another law, or so you don't break it, right? So now you can't do a certain thing, right? So they even use their pen as a way of a weapon of destruction, right? Right? You can see those guys. They were holding up that paper, basically showing you that they're using that pen, so to speak, which now I guess it's all typed up, but it's ink. And they're showing you that that's how they use that they're passing their laws as a weapon, right? A sword is sharpened, also furbished. It is sharpened to make a sore slaughter. It is furbished that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth, right? And that's what you Jake's been doing. You've been fighting each other, doing all sorts of things, laughing and what are they talking about? Ghost ride the whip and going down the streets and burning rubber. What do they call it? And they block off the streets and everybody's acting crazy, doing donuts in the road. You're making mirth, right? But what Esau's going to do is use that as a criminal act and say that is a reason to come after you, right? You from all these different gangs. That's what they're using. He's trying to use it. Well, he's an MS-13, and yeah, he's this and he's that. Yeah, he literally had a tattoo. Well, what if that was a tattoo from 20 years ago? When at one point in time he thought he was an MS, but he changed his life and he did this. But forget all that. That now he's a business worker. He's a family man, a taxpayer. He's doing all these different things. You could just send somebody to Nicaragua or wherever you sending them to because they have a tattoo. Yeah, but that's what this is the time that you're living in, right? It's furbish that it may glitter. Should we then make mirth? It containeth the rod of my son as every tree, right? And a rod is for rulership, and it's also what for thrashing, right? Because the rod goes into a scepter, but they're going to use their rulership as a way to thrash you, thrash the children of Israel, the sons of the power. But a lot of you are not behaving as sons of the power, right? And he have given it to be furbished. He had given it to be furbished that it may be handled. This sword, right, which is Esau Edom, is sharpened. It is furbished to give it into the hands of the slaughterer, right? And that's what Esau's coming to do. He's coming like a madman sparing none to slaughter, right? Skip down. Says also, this is 19, Ezekiel 21, verse 19. Also, son of man, appoint the 2 ways that the sword of the king of Babylon, which is king of Babylon right now is Donald Trump, may come, both twain shall come forth out of the land. So, right, they're going to come against the northern kingdom, they're going to come against the southern kingdom, and they're going to go through all the entire land, figure out a way to kill you so-called Black, Hispanic, and Native Indians, and if not, you're going to get you to convert, get you to get the charagma, everything. Hey, things is finna get tight, man, and hectic, right? Forth out of one land and choose the place chosen it at. Choose choice it at the hand of the way to the city, right? Let me skip down. It says for Babylon, skip down to 1. I'm skipping 20. I'm just going to get right to the point. Ezekiel 21 and 21 says, for the king of Babylon, which is Donald J. Trump right now, stood at the parting of the way at the head of 2 ways to use the divisions, right? So dividing the country. You got the blue states, the red states. You got the different male against female. You got the different race wars, things. Everything that they're doing, they're gonna throw everything at you all at once. So people don't know what to do. They're going to throw a good law and a bad law. They're going to do this, confuse people. No, this law is good for you. No, this thing is good for you. No, we need to vote this way. We need to stand behind Trump this way because this and that. All why him and Elon Musk is bringing in, hey, Jacob's trouble, right? He made his arrow, see, what are these arrows going to be made for to kill you? Bright. He consulted with his image, right? Which the image is going to be the charagma, right? The mark of the beast, right? The CHIP, right? Biometrics, right? He looked in the liver. He looked in the liver. Liver, yeah, liver. At his right hand was the divination, right? The divination of Jerusalem to appoint captains. Captains to open the mouth in the slaughtering, to lift up the voice with shouting, to appoint battering rams. See, they're going to come against you, right? So I'm going to read that 21 again, since I understand divination. Yeah, which, matter of fact, I'll probably go through that real quick. Let me see if I can. Nope, no, this one I can't do it like that. Okay, I'll just look it up. But yeah, let me finish this. Shouting to appoint battering rams, right? So they're going to come against you. And against the gates, right? See, gates are what? For protecting. So everything that you thought you loved and you hold dear to, they come in to destroy everything. To cast a mount and to build a fort, right? So they're going to take you to concentration camps, all these different things. That's what's about to happen, right? Right, which his thing is to accuse. So divination, right? The false accuser. So when it says divination, the practice of seeking knowledge of the future, right? The witchcraft, right? Or basically they come up with lies, they create lies, or the unknown by supernatural means, and they pray to Satan too, right? Yeah, witchcraft, yeah.
Witchcraft.
And that's ultimately what Esau's about. Yeah. So you're going to use divination, witchcraft, all these different things, but also part of his witchcraft, like I was saying, division, right? Confusing the minds, like I was saying. Yeah, so I said it, I broke it down right, but just, to get better understanding, yeah, it's like witchcraft. They're gonna use trickery, so-called Jedi mind trick, you know what I'm saying, to use simpletons. Confuse the mind, make you people be against each other, and while they're doing that, and while they're making it seem like they're coming in to help you, they're gonna be really set out to destroy you. So with all that, I want to give all praises and all honor and all glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah HaKodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule well and do well, to the elder apostles, bishops in Connecticut, to the bishops, the preachers, the teachers, the evangelists, and the four winds, preaching in truth and sincerity, risking your lives more now than ever, the hopeful elect, Shalom, to the Israelite foreigners, who phenotype may look like another nation, but bloodline goes back to Israel through your father, and have come back to the fold. Shalom, to your sisters, your Akwathium, who listen and learn under your husband, which is your spiritual leader, with meekness and with silence, and a Baba Ball, Kwam Yasharallah.